Hi, I'm Pacific Solomon, and this is the voice of Amhara. As the war in Ethiopia intensifies, so does the anti-Amhara narrative. As the Amhara Muslim party, led by Abiy, have arrested several political and military figures in the past week, such as General Tafarra Mamo and the leader of the Minlik Brigade, Fano Antene, and Solomon Belanyu, an Amhara journalist. Today we've got Dr. Hayman Safwa, the chair and founder of the Amhara Liberation Movement, or the LAM. Thanks for joining me in the Voice of Amhara.
Thank you, Basufakar. I appreciate it.
What is Abiy trying to do? Why is Abiy and his puppets trying to create an unnecessary fear towards the Amhara people and making it a point of emphasis?
Yeah, it's a great question. So actually, this is simply a continuation of Abiy Ahmed. Abiy Ahmed is Oromuma philosophy, where about 50 years ago, they have decided, to eradicate the Amhara people as a group of people from the face of the earth. So as we have seen repeatedly in various acts of the Oromuma movement and the Oromo elites who are occupying the palace, the Menelik Palace in Addis Ababa. They've been trying to really eradicate Amhara people from the face of the earth. So, in the 1970s, particularly 1974, 75, the OLF, Oromo Liberation Front, Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, and the Eritrean People's Liberation Front, EPLF, sat together and decided that Amharas are their arch enemies. And it's based on a false narrative, truly, based on a false narrative. These three groups singled out Amharas as their arch enemy, and then decided to eradicate Amhara people as a people from the face of the earth. So with this in mind, they systematically started attacking Amharas for the last 50 years. And recently, these attacks have been intensified, and they have actually acquired the status of genocide, on a grand scale. Wherever Amharas are in Ethiopia, they are being killed, they are displaced and raped by this, particularly these two forces, the Oromo Liberation Front, which is just different names, as called OLA in some places, it's called OPDO in some places, it's called Prosperity Party in other places. Whatever the name might be, it's the purpose and the intention is the same. They have singled out Amharas as enemies, and they are systematically waging genocidal war against Amharas. Right just before the OLF, OLA, Shane, or Prosperity Party, the TPLF did the same thing and continued doing the same thing. So these two forces, the Tigray People's Liberation Front and the Oromo Liberation Army, OLA, or the Oromo Liberation Front, OLF, or Prosperity Party, they are just, executing their long-held belief and plan to eliminate really or exterminate Amharas from the face of the earth. So what they are doing at the moment, the thing you've just described, the beginning, imprisonment of the Amhara General Mamo, journalists like Solomon and others, is just a continuation of, systematic and systemic war to eliminate or destroy Amhara as a group of people. So as I said, especially in the last 4 years, the level of genocide, the level of massacre is unheard of. Unfortunately, the world is busy with its own affairs. However, Amharas are suffering in silence. And in Ethiopia, the TPLF and the OLF are equipped with military hardware. They are in control of the media. They are in control of government structure and infrastructure, and hence using government structure and infrastructure to eliminate or to destroy Amharas. So this is simply a continuation of their genocidal effort, and we don't see an end inside. Okay, so we're left, Amharas are left with no option but to stand up and fight back. Okay, so if you assess what has been happening in Ethiopia for the last 4 years, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to say that these things or these actions will continue in the future, in the foreseeable future, unless we Amharas put an end to it. And nobody's going to come to our aid unless we fight for our own freedom. Okay, so it's up to all of us. It's up to all Amharas, young, old, educated, uneducated, wherever we are, we need to stand up and fight for our freedom.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. My next question is, so the Ethiopian National Defense Force and Oromo Regional Forces have killed several Amhara civilians in Marawi. Witnesses say that we're using heavy weapons on unarmed civilians. Again, the Defense Force have arrested masses of Amhara youth in Barda. Freedom of press is literally demolished in Ethiopia. The Abiy regime clearly does not support the principle that supports the freedom of an Amhara or an Amhara organization to articulate their opinion or ideas without the fear of the government retaliating by receiving legal sanctions or persecuting or accusing Amhara voices of promoting genocide, terrorism. Has the Abiy regime copied and pasted the barbarian government by controlling the Amhara people behind his iron fist? If so, is it leading to a failed state or worse?
Another great questions again. Yes. So yeah, I can start from the last remark. Ethiopia is already a failed state. Okay, by definition, political science defines failed state. There are a few criteria that qualify a nation as a failed state. Okay, one, the means of waging violence against its population is distributed throughout the country. There are armed groups, including the government itself, waging violence against its population without regard to law and justice. This is one criteria. So the justice system has broken. The means of waging violence has been or is distributed among various groups, particularly the TPLF, the OLF, OLA, and Prosperity Party, and other armed groups within the country have a means of waging violence, uncentralized, uncoordinated, undisciplined way of waging violence, and they're using that to destroy Amhara people. The victims are always Amharas. In all cases, the victims are Amharas. So this is one criteria. The other is, there is, as you said, there is no freedom of press. What that means is people, the citizens cannot say what they want, how they feel, and they cannot even ask, or they cannot even forward their grievances for redress. There is no means of civil discourse in Ethiopia, civil dialogue in Ethiopia, and you cannot say what you want. The means of communication, the media in particular, is monopolized by the ruling elites who call themselves the Ethiopian government, and they are using it only for their own propaganda purpose. So whoever wants to say something, they have to go through the government channels, or they have to get government approval prior to they say something. So that is just an indication of a failed state, really, where you cannot express your feelings and you cannot forward your grievances for redress. Other criteria we can look at is, like, if you look at the living condition in Ethiopia, how the citizens live, life is extremely, extremely expensive. The inflation is double digits. Price of basic commodities honestly doubles overnight. If you make a phone call, or if you ask someone on the street in Ethiopia, the price of a commodity, basic commodity like food and basic supplies, it doubles overnight. This is an indication of a failed state. There is no law and order, and the marketplace is not regulated. And there is an acute shortage of basic supplies, to include food, water, and other amenities that are necessary for life. And the government is not providing, unable to provide basic amenities that are needed for sustenance of life. This is another criteria that shows the Ethiopian government has failed. So having said this, going back to your question again, you said the Ethiopian defense forces are deployed throughout the Amhara region, to include Gondar, Gojam, Shawa, and Wollo. And their basic duty, really, or the assignment they're given, is to destroy Amhara youth and the Amhara Fano and the Amhara advocates throughout Amhara and throughout Ethiopia for the Amhara. And this is another indication that the genocide perpetrated against the Amharas in Ethiopia is basically state-sponsored, state-sanctioned, and it's meticulous, it's systematic, and systemic. Okay, so that's another indication that Amharas do not have a real representative in Ethiopia, and they are singled out for destruction and elimination. And the Abiy's government, the so-called Abiy's government, is using the state resources, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces being one of state apparatus that is used to wage, or really not only wage, but intensify the genocide that is being carried out against Amharas in Ethiopia. So everything they do, the imprisonments of the Amhara youth, who call themselves in some instances Fanos, Amhara advocates, journalists, university professors and teachers, civil organization leaders, civic organization leaders, all that is a concerted effort to muffle Amhara voices, to intimidate Amhara advocates, Amhara voices, and ultimately to rule Amharas with iron fists, and not only rule, but cleanse the Amharas as an ethnic group from Ethiopia so that they can have the land for themselves. So this is again a continuation of the Oromos and Tigrayans' effort to destroy Amharas as a nation in Ethiopia, Amharas as an ethnic group in Ethiopia. So to be frank, this is just a continuation. So what we need to do here is that, whoever has the guns controls what you say and how you say it. Okay, so in other Western democracies, for instance, in America, they have this right called First Amendment, that is freedom of speech, where you can say anything you want, without fear of intimidation and imprisonment or harassment. And that First Amendment is actually enforced by the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment talks about owning a means of defense, particularly owning guns. Okay, so what's happening in Ethiopia is really those who own the guns and who control how to wage violence against the population control what that particular group of people can say and cannot say. Okay, so as I said, we Amharas, we are running out of options, and we have run out of options for a long time now. So what we need to do, as I said earlier, is stand up and fight back. We need to own guns by any means possible, and defend ourselves and our territories so that we can live in peace. Okay, so now war has become a precondition for peace in Ethiopia. We have no other option. The Oromos and the Tigray who own the guns and the economy, disproportionately own the economy and the guns, they are controlling the rest of the population, and they are waging genocidal war against Amharas. So we have no other option but to stand up and fight in groups or either a single individual. Okay, we need to own guns and establish our own zone of operation, free zones of operation, and fight back. And that's the only way we can protect civilians, peaceful civilians in the Amhara region and the rest of Ethiopia. There is no other way. Okay, so coming back to the issue of free speech, now free speech in Ethiopia has become an illusion. Okay, it has become a luxury because those who own the guns are forcing people not to speak up. They cannot. If you do, you will be either killed, you'll be imprisoned, or you'll be displaced, and your life will be turned upside down. So the only way we can ensure free speech is if we own guns, when we own guns, and we are able to defend ourselves. Okay, that's where we are at the moment in Ethiopia.
Thank you. Now we'll talk in depth about the Amhara regional government, or the council of the Amhara, the cancer of the enemy of the band of the Amhara people. So they have called a crackdown on Fano members. Now the number has reached up to 10,000. What is the Amhara regional government trying to do? And is the Amhara regional government becoming a contradiction? Because earlier when the war started, they encouraged the Amhara youth to put up their arms and fight, and now they're disarming them. What are they trying to do? Is this basically them? Is this basically them trying to disarm Amharas and let them be free, be killed from any enemy? What are they trying to do? And as a as Amhara Liberation Organization, do you condemn this?
Another great question. You see, now you raise the issue of the Amhara regional government, or people who claim to be Amhara representatives. In my opinion, in our opinion, Amharas do not have, especially Amharas in Ethiopia, do not have real representation and real political representation in Ethiopia. The reason why we say this is because historically, especially since 1991, since the TPLF overran the Derg army and took over the central government, Amharas have been assigned, proxy administrators, so-called politicians, Amhara politicians, who are not in a real sense Amhara representatives, but the hired hands of the TPLF at the time. That same logic, or that same story, continued to the present day. And then when Abiy Ahmed came to power, he recruited people of Amhara ethnic descent, but in real intention and action, those are in the back pockets of Abiy Ahmed and his cronies. Okay, so these are not real politicians who stand for Amhara rights, and they have no intention of at all defending Amhara lives and Amhara interests at all. These politicians who are occupying the regional government seats in Bahar Dar and across Amhara region are hired hands of the Abiy Ahmed and his cronies. Okay, so basically they are self-serving politicians, quote unquote, and they are simply hired hands of Abiy Ahmed. They don't have, they don't align themselves with the Amhara people, and they don't have even ideological purity as to why they are doing what they are doing. Their only motivation, it seems, is, like finding a job or a job security, and finding or obtaining a means of amassing resources for themselves and for their family members. Okay, so basically these are self-serving hired hands of people who are occupying Menelik Palace, Arakilo in Addis Ababa. Okay, so the problem arises from this basic problem. If the people do not have a real representative, if the people do not have people with ideological purity then that becomes really the source of most of the problems for Amhara people in Ethiopia. Okay, so what they're doing at the moment is just they are executing what Abiy Ahmed tells them to do. All right. If you look at, we can compare what has happened in 2000, November 2000, when Abiy Ahmed's central government decided to invade Tigray region. Tigray forces, the TPLF forces, even though they are butchers and enemies of Amharas, there is a lesson to be learned here, okay? They stood up to Abiy Ahmed and they fought back. This is because they had ideological purity, right? They didn't want to submit to Abiy's will, and they didn't want to expose all the Tigray peoples to the massacres as imagined by the Abiy Ahmed and his cronies. We expect the same thing to happen in Amhara region, but unfortunately, that's not happening. On the other hand, or to the contrary, people who are in Amhara region, politicians and administrators, quote unquote, who are supposed to safeguard the safety and interests of Amharas, are cooperating with the murderers, the killers, and the genocidal regime of Abiy Ahmed. That is a paradox, okay? That's a big paradox, and that is as a source of all the problems, most of the problems we see in Ethiopia, okay, in Amhara region. So to come back to your question, these so-called Amhara administrators, Amhara politicians from Bahar Dar and across Amhara region are simply doing the bidding of Abiy Ahmed. They are executing what they are told. Okay, Abiy, as we all know, is a dictatorial maniac. He wants to eliminate and destroy anybody who resists his desire to rule Ethiopia with iron fist and to destroy Amharas as a nation, as a group of people in Ethiopia. So to achieve his goal, he is using the so-called Amhara politicians and administrators in Bahar Dar and throughout Amhara. So what they are doing is basically they're just, as expected, they're just doing what a hired hand is supposed to do. They are Abiy's employees, they are in Abiy's pocket, and they get what they have through Abiy and from Abiy, even though the money, the resources is a national resource and national treasure, because Abiy and his cronies control the army. These Amhara politicians submit to Abiy's will, and they have turned against their own people, Amharas. And that's why Amhara Liberation Movement, ALM, says Amharas do not have real representation in Ethiopia. And that's why from time to time and every time we call for a popular uprising, popular revolution, for the people to regain what is theirs, really. The land is ours. The land is Amhara land. We need to regain our land. We need to regain our resources. And this is achieved only by fighting, only by standing up to bullies. Okay? That is at the core of the problem. We have tried various means. We have tried dialogue. We have tried conversations. We have tried civil disobediences. We have tried various means. All those attempts have been snuffed and they failed. And we are left with no other choice but to organize and fight back. That's the only means. As I said, we do not have real representation, be it in Addis Ababa or in Bahar Dar. Okay? Amhara elites, Amhara politicians, so-called Amhara politicians in Bahar Dar and throughout Amhara region are hired by Abiy, and they are executing what they are told by Abiy Ahmed. Okay, so Abiy wants to destroy the Fano. Abiy wants to destroy Amhara advocates, and Abiy wants to destroy Amhara as a people. And then he tells the so-called Amhara politicians in Bahar Dar and throughout Amhara to do his bidding, and that's what they are doing. So they are sellouts, you know, and they are soulless sellouts, honestly. They're there. They are self-serving, soulless politicians. They're not even politicians. They are leeches. They are parasites. Okay? So that's why we say Amharas are left with no other choice, with no other option, but to organize on a purely ideological ground. Okay? Our cause is just because we have been persecuted, we have been killed, we have been raped, we have been displaced, we've been impoverished for so long. Our back is literally against the wall. There is no else to go. We cannot go. We cannot back any further. Okay? Our back is against the wall and we cannot retreat any longer. We need to stand up and fight back. For this, we need pure ideology. That is, we say Amhara first. We need to defend Amhara interests, Amhara life, and Amhara safety. For this, we need to organize, and fight back in every avenue available.
Thank you. Now we'll talk about, as you said before, you were talking about regaining Amhara territorial land. After there's been circulations going on about how Welkite and Araya, those places have not been given back to the Amhara people properly after they've been annexed in 1991 by the TPLF. And in the northern Shawa Warada of Darra, there have been consistent operations by your left to take that land from the Amhara people. What do you think about this, and when will the Amhara liberation movement take action on this?
That's a great question. So, Welkite and Raya, Darra, and Aye, in various spots in Wollo, known as Wollo, are unjustly invaded by TPLF, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, and the OLF, OLA, or the Prosperity Party, or simply the Romuma forces. This is unjust, and that needs to be reversed. Okay, so we need to see all these hotspots and others in a totality of the liberation struggle. Okay, so when we say we have no option, but we have to fight back, what we are saying is really the fight is multi-pronged. It's not only these contested lands, but historically, we know, history tells us, without mentioning names, if you look at Ethiopian history, there are places in Ethiopia where Amharas resided, lived for centuries, and there are documentations to prove that. So based on that documentation and historical records, Amhara lands are Amhara lands. Okay, so that's not contested. They can, TPLF and OLF, they can sit and talk for millennia, but they're not going to change these historic facts. Okay, so when we say we fight for our freedom, we mean to free ourselves as individuals, as an ethnic group, from oppression, from persecution, from genocide, from murders and rapes. And also, we mean also to free our lands throughout Ethiopia that have been Amhara territory for generations. Okay, so it's not only Welkite and Raya or Dara or other places other contested places contested by the TPLF and OLF. No, this is about all Amhara land that has been historically ours, and it will stay the same. So the freedom fight, the freedom struggle includes both freeing our person psychologically and physically, and also freeing our lands. Okay? It's going to be a long fight, but we shall prevail at the end. Okay? So when we organize, when we fight, we organize with this context. Okay? It's not only one spot here, another spot there. It's a totality of Amhara territory throughout. Okay, so and when we design strategies, we're taking this into account as well. But you know, there are things we need to do urgently, like stopping the genocide, like organizing, and then the strategy includes freeing the body, mind, and the lands of Amhara throughout Ethiopia. So what they're doing in Olkait, what they're doing in Raya, what they're doing in Dara, what they're doing in Ataye, and other places, Western Wallega, Eastern Wallega, Benishangul, Gambela, Harar, you know, the southern part of Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa. It is unjust, it is aggression, it's genocide, it's oppression. All right, all that needs to stop, and all that needs to be reversed, and we need a new social contract. We need a freedom mentality. We need ideological purity to free ourselves from these oppressors, these killers, and these reps of, you know, honestly, bullies and hooligans. And that's why we need to fight back. Okay, so our freedom, you know, to be honest, you know, if you want to be philosophical about it, no enemy comes with olive in their hands, okay? They always come with guns. What we need to do is receive them with guns. That's it. There's no other option. You know, we cannot beg and cry our way out of this. The time for that has passed. These are barbaric people. They don't understand. They're not civilized. What they understand is only force. So force must be encountered by force. There is no other way. There is no other means. Okay? And numbers are on our side. And as you know, historically, Amharas are brave fighters. Of course, we are law-abiding citizens, but the time to, to be lawful has passed, because people who are supposed to enforce the law are breaking the law and killing the whole group of people, an ethnic group, Amhara ethnic group. So law and order has broken, government system has broken down, and what we have is barbaric Oromo and TPLF groups trying to destroy Amharas, and all we need to do is stand up and fight back. That is in every arena, be it in the social media, be it on the ground in Ethiopia, everywhere. What we got to do is fight back. So issue of Wolkite and Raya, Dara, and other spots, hot spots throughout Ethiopia is treated the same way, These are Amhara lands, and they cannot, the occupiers cannot stay, should not stay there for long. They should be driven out, and Amhara's land should be administered by Amharas only. Okay, that's where we are.
Thank you so much. My next question is, Amharas are systematically oppressed. They're under genocide. There's no free speech. Even when Amhara politicians abide under this constitutional mechanism, which is of course wrong, but when they abide under this constitutional mechanism, they still get prosecuted because they're Amhara. So what is your message for the Amhara people? Now we've seen the recent weeks, Amharas have woken up, they're urgent, they're fighting back, they're chanting, they're protesting. What is your message and what's your motivation to the Amhara youth?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Yes. So as I said, we have run out of options. We have no other option but to fight back. So what does fighting back mean? Okay. Say organizing. How do we organize? We make networks. Could be a group of two. It should start with the individual Amhara himself. Okay. We should change our mindset. As I said, we cannot beg our way out of this mess. We cannot wait for someone else to come and save us. That's not going to happen. Okay? Nobody in history, no nation or no group of people were saved by other people. Okay? In fact, you can get assistance and help from others, but no one will fight on your behalf. No one will fight on Amhara's behalf. Okay? So it's Amharas for Amharas. There is no other way. So organize. What does it mean? Come together in a group of 1 and 2. The individual Amhara, change your mindset. Okay? There's this apt English expression. They say freedom is a mindset. Okay? Say no to aggression. Say no to oppression. Say no to genocide. Change your mindset in the first place. Do not accept it. Okay? Say no to it. And then tell yourself that it needs to change. This injustice, this genocide, this displacement, these rapes must change. This oppression must change. Say that to yourselves. Convince yourself and then start taking action. How do you do that? Okay? Have a plan. Be specific. Every waking moment, make a plan how to change Amhara's sorry situation at the moment. How can you change it? If you are on social media, be focused. Be focused. Okay? Produce or generate messages that can inform other Amharas, network with other Amharas. If you see a message, a strategy, share with other Amharas, helpful message and strategies, share with other Amharas, and then organize, i.e., make a network, link to one another, share phone numbers, email addresses, start making a database of patriots, okay? Then raise funds, use those funds to fight back, to buy weapons, to train soldiers, to buy food for the fighters, buy clothing for the fighters, buy communication equipment for the fighters, okay? And then execute your plan with determination and grit. Never give up. Never give up. It's only the strong that gets their way in this world. If you're weak, you will stay weak forever. So the only way out is to be strong, and you will become strong by organizing and fighting back. There is no other way. So for Amhara youth, please change your mindsets. Know that freedom is a mindset, and then meticulously execute each and every action that will lead you to ultimate freedom. Help one another and rely on one another. Never criticize another Amhara in a bad way. Okay, when you talk to one another, of course you can do that, but not in public, right? So have a strategy, have a plan, and execute that plan meticulously without giving up. Never lose hope, okay? Again, ideas change the world. Have an idea of freedom, and then work to execute that without giving up. If you give up in your mind, your body will learn that and your body will give up too. So again, since freedom is a mindset, have the idea of freedom, enduring idea of freedom in your mind, and work towards realizing that goal of freedom. So have an ideological purity, honestly, have an ideological purity, okay? So don't be muddled. There are different things come, what we have observed in Ethiopian politics is, different agendas are raised that, national unity of Ethiopia, sovereignty of Ethiopia, and et cetera, and et cetera. Have be ideologically pure. To save Ethiopia, you need to save yourselves first, okay? Ethiopia is really made up of a group of people who live in Ethiopia, various ethnic groups in Ethiopia. So if Amharas are destroyed, then Ethiopia is destroyed, okay? Simple as that. So try to see beyond the hype, try to see beyond the government propaganda, and have an ideological purity. You should think of yourselves first as an individual, and then as an ethnic group. And then you think about the country, not the other way around, okay? And that has been also the core of Amhara problem for a long time. Amhara, especially, historically, Amharas always thought that they are the keepers of the Ethiopian concept, okay? Whatever that means. But that's, in my opinion, that contributed to Amhara's weakness and Amhara's being killed every day. So have an ideological purity, say Amhara first, save yourselves first, save the Amhara ethnic group first, be strong so that you can be a strong partner of the new Ethiopia. Okay, so honestly, the use organize, and fight back. That is the only way we can regain our sovereignty, to be honest. And that's the only way we can ensure our survival as an ethnic group. Okay, so that's all I can say for now.
This will be an end of our program. We would like to thank the Amhara Liberation Chair and founder, Dr. Hamanot Asaf, for taking his time to talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fukada. I really appreciate it.
And this is the end of the Voice of Amhara. Please subscribe to our channel, Amhara Liberation Movement. And as we always say, Amhara Netik Dem, Tarazu Chachin Dem. And as a report of the report of the Voice of Amhara, until we will be the voice of the voiceless, we will be the voice of the Amhara people. Even if the cost is death, we will die for our people. Thank you so much.